The wind howled outside, rattling the windows like some creature trying to break through. Inside, everything was eerily still, too still. Lydia's footsteps echoed across the dusty floor of the old house as she moved cautiously from room to room. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she didn't dare slow down. Every creak, every sigh of the house seemed to whisper a warning. But Lydia ignored it. She had to keep moving. Time was running out. She had never wanted to return here. The house held too many memories, none of them good. But it had been forced upon her. The phone call that had summoned her back was simple. "Lydia, it's time." That's all it took. It was a voice she knew too well, her father's voice. Or rather, the voice of someone pretending to be her father. Her mind raced, questioning everything. Why did they need her back? What did they want? Her family had always been secretive, manipulative, and downright strange, but this felt different. Lydia's eyes darted around the dimly lit hallway. She hadn't been here in years, ever since that night. The night her father disappeared. The night her entire world crumbled. She could still see the flashing lights of the police cars, the chaos, the confusion. No one could explain why her father, a respected local businessman, had just vanished without a trace. All that was left behind was a broken family, a torn community, and a house that was now more of a prison than a home. Lydia never wanted to return, never wanted to face the darkness that waited here. But now, it was unavoidable. The house was calling her back. She made her way to the study. The door groaned as she pushed it open, revealing shelves of old books, dusty papers, and the same thick air of neglect she remembered. But something was wrong. Something was different. There was a faint glow from the far corner. A light. Impossible. Lydia's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't seen that light in years. It was her father's desk lamp. He had always left it on, even when he wasn't here, and yet it had been absent ever since he left. She walked over, her breath shallow, and reached for the switch. The light flickered before stabilizing, casting long, jagged shadows across the room. A piece of paper lay on the desk. It was stained, as though it had been handled countless times. Lydia picked it up, her fingers trembling. The writing was familiar. Too familiar. "I know you're coming. Don't trust anyone. You're already too late." Her blood ran cold. A chill settled deep in her bones. Too late for what? Before she could process the message, she heard it, a soft scrape, like something or someone moving behind her. Lydia spun around, her breath caught in her throat. The room was empty. Nothing was there. But she wasn't alone, not anymore. She backed away slowly, her mind racing with questions, with fear. What was going on? Why was she feeling like someone was watching her every move? She had to get out, had to find answers. But when she reached for the door, it wouldn't budge. The house had locked her in. Panic surged through her. Lydia twisted the handle, her hands slick with sweat. The door refused to open, as though the house itself was keeping her in. Her eyes darted around the room, desperately searching for another way out. Her gaze landed on the small window, but it was too high for her to reach. A groan echoed through the walls. The house seemed to be alive, breathing with an energy she couldn't understand. It was closing in on her, trapping her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, cutting through the tension like a knife. Lydia pulled it out, her fingers shaking. A single message blinked on the screen. "You've been chosen." The word sent a wave of dread through her. Chosen? Chosen for what? The phone vibrated again. Another message. "Don't fight it." Lydia's pulse raced as she scanned the room, looking for any hint of an explanation. She couldn't make sense of any of it. The house, the messages, the whispers. She was losing her grip on reality. Suddenly she heard footsteps behind her. Slow, deliberate. Each step was measured, and each one sent her heart into overdrive. Lydia whipped around, her breath quick and shallow. And there he was, her father. At least it looked like him, but there was something off about the way he stood, his eyes cold and empty, his movements too stiff, too deliberate. The face she had once trusted was now a mask, an imitation of the man she once loved. "Lydia," he said, his voice hollow, almost mechanical. The words sent a shockwave through her. "What have you done?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. His lips curled into a smile, but it was the kind of smile that sent shivers down her spine. It was the smile of someone who knew a terrible secret, someone who had watched everything fall apart and had no intention of stopping it. "I've waited a long time for this," he said. "You were always the one who didn't belong." Lydia's mind reeled. What was he talking about? She had never felt like she belonged in this house, but to hear him say it so matter-of-factly made her stomach turn. There was more to this than just her father's disappearance. There were secrets, dark, dangerous secrets, hidden deep within the walls of this house. "I don't understand," Lydia said, her voice breaking. "What's happening here?" Her father's gaze grew colder. "You're part of something much bigger than you realize, Lydia. You've always been part of it." Lydia shook her head. No, this isn't real. You're not real. You're just a copy." Her father's eyes narrowed. "Don't be so naive. You've always been the one they wanted, always been the one who could see through the lies." The words hit Lydia like a punch to the gut. They, who were they? Her father took a slow step forward. "You've already seen too much. There's no going back now." The room seemed to close in on her. The walls felt like they were moving, shifting, like the house itself was alive and aware of her every move. Lydia stumbled back, her mind frantically trying to make sense of it all. The footsteps started again, soft, deliberate, closer still. But Lydia didn't turn around. She didn't need to. This wasn't her father anymore, and the house had never been hers to begin with. There was no escape. As the darkness swallowed her, the last thing she heard was the faint, distorted sound of her father's voice, laughing. "You were always meant to be here. The house had won."